So coming off of the previous chapter where we see this big meeting taking place between all of the captains and all of the higher ups discussing the information that Hoshina obtained from Kaiju number 10, which gave them some insight into how number 9 works, as well as what's going on with the overall Kaiju threat, but mainly that Kaiju number 10 was made by Kaiju number 9, meaning that there's going to be even more Kaiju or monsters that are over Fortitude 9 or Resilience 9. And as we've seen, that is like incredibly powerful, and even they themselves know that they are limited on the manpower that can deal with something like that. And that brings us to the beginning of the chapter where they're like, if we not work together, this country will perish. You know, since there's been friction between all of the units, as we saw in the previous chapter. So following this discovery, Jugo, the captain of the 4th Division, questions the legitimacy of this. Like, is number 10 lying? And Hoshina says, of course, it's a possibility, but then he shows like this graph proving that the average resilience has risen like 2 points over the years. So yeah, it's pretty much confirmed that this is for sure happening. But then we're getting some crucial exposition after this, because Hoshina says there's many uncertainties around the mechanism of monster outbreaks, which is true. I mean, we the audience hardly really know how any of this stuff works still. But he goes on to say, according to recent research, the most promising theory about the monsters outbreaks is one which states that enormous energy and distortion created by faults on Earth affect the plants and animals nearby, and they believe that Kaiju number 9 is using that to create further Kaijus. So that's pretty interesting, and it makes sense, at least for the most part. I mean, at least we have the foundation of how this stuff can be started, and it kind of reminds me of like Frankenstein, you know, because like they put all of the pieces together and then a bolt of lightning brings them to life. I guess it's kind of the same fundamental as that, although like I said, you know, we hardly really know anything at this point. But anyway, going further, Hoshina says that a possible location for this stuff going down, you know, since he previously mentioned that it's happening from faults in the Earth, that it's likely where the Philippine Sea Plate and the Eurasian Plate meet, like deep underwater, an area that is inaccessible to mankind. And this reminds me a lot of Pacific Rim, a movie that features kaijus in itself, and I wouldn't be surprised if Matsumoto was inspired by that, at least partly. Now, I'm not saying it's one for one, obviously, because in Pacific Rim, I think the kaijus come from like another dimension there, which is probably the case with this too, maybe. Again, we hardly know anything, so we can only really speculate at this point. But yeah, this is pretty much where Kaiju number 9's base is located. I mean, at least a rough view of it. I mean, it looks like it's a very large area, and they said it would take them years if they tried to look for it manually, because it lines up with the location that we saw Kaiju number 9 at the end of the previous chapter, like sitting in that cave-like place with the kaijus hanging from the ceiling. But going further, Mina also gives us some more super interesting exposition here by saying, on top of that, according to number 10, number 9 is able to access the memories of the human it absorbs. By absorbing the chief, there's a chance it now has knowledge of the Defense Force's strength. So wow, that's pretty cool. And I kind of thought that something like this would happen. I mean, there was a specific reason why number 9 went after Isao. I mean, other than him being strong and like a good vessel and capable of using number 2, there had to be another reason on top of that, and this is it. He now has the most important mind in the Defense Force, aka his direct enemy. So he virtually knows almost everything at this point, or everything that he nearly needs to know. But going further into the chapter, we'll see that there are some wild cards that not even Isao can account for, because Hoshina says, which means in a few months, until number 9 makes its move, our fate depends on our ability to create several unpredictable factors, which essentially comes down to the growth of their young talents. And we see Reno, Haruichi, Aoi, and Iharu. And as we've seen, this isn't like unlikely. They are the typical shonen protagonists that we follow. They advance at a super incredibly fast rate and wind up getting way more powerful than the established characters who have been training for like 20 years. Which goes back to something that number 9 can't really account for, because Isao himself couldn't know that, you know, these individuals were going to become the strongest in a couple months or whatever. And that's what I'm assuming the span of time is here, because Hoshina says, which means in the next few months until number 9 makes its next move. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the exact time frame. Number 9 is very unpredictable, and I don't know if this is like directly Matsumoto telling us that like, hey, it's going to be a while before we get into another big kaiju battle arc, meaning that we could be going into like like a full-blown trading arc here. But going further, we're getting another huge development here because Mina says, above all, the most important is number 6's weapon. It has been stored away despite being the strongest weapon. Training the troop member compatible with number 6 weapon is crucial. And this really intrigues me because number 6 is probably the kaiju I'm most interested in, simply because of the hype behind him and the air of mystery, because he's only been talked about at this point. We have no idea what he looked like previously. We don't even know what the weapon that he has become is. We just know that he was a beast because the lore that we got on him so far was that like years ago he was so powerful he caused like multiple cataclysms. He killed like 200 Defense Corps members and unfortunately even took out Kikoru's mom, Hikari, you know, Isao's wife, who was, you know, pretty beastly in her own right. And he's even being referred to as the former king of monsters here. So I guess before number 9 came around, number 6 was kind of at the top of the kaiju power scale. But on top of that, now we're also finding out that they found someone who is compatible with him because a certain recruit's cell samples showed signs of synchronization with number 6. And then we cut away to Iharu like taking on this random kaiju, and we're thinking, oh, is it going to be Haru? That's certainly a twist. But no, it's another twist. It's actually Reno. He is the one who is compatible with number 6, aka the strongest numbered weapon. So this is pretty cool. I'm not mad at it. I'm sure we all like Reno. He's kind of been, you know, to the side the last couple chapters, but now he's coming back to the spotlight as he should, because he is the number 2 in the series after all. And there's been a lot of mystery around him as well. I mean, there's mystery with so many characters, but him more so because we hardly really know anything. And I'm sure we all have our theories on his overall importance to the series, especially how suspicious it has been with his overall growth, how strong he becomes, even more so than just the typical shonen power-ups that we've seen the other characters getting. I mean, it's been stated multiple times by like multiple characters. And the fact that of all of the people in the Defense Force, he is the one who is randomly capable of being able to use number 6. He probably has some kind of significance to him, and I don't want to say that there's like a deviousness to him because we just don't know. I mean, there's always a chance that it's not a coincidence that he was there with Kafka when Kafka got the parasite kaiju. I don't want to go too much into that kind of theory and speculation because there's very little to build a case for it. But I'll just say that if you have been suspicious of Reno, you're not wrong to think that. So yeah, it looks like Reno is going to catch up to Kafka pretty quickly and possibly even blow past Kikoru, unless she gets a numbered weapon too. Maybe she gets her mom's in the future. But I'm assuming that this isn't going to happen immediately either. I'm sure there's going to be like a whole stretch of chapters where Reno has to like become accustomed to number 6, get the learning curve of all of that. Just can't wait till we see what number 6 weapon is. I just also want to see what number 6 was like when he was like alive. But as for what his weapon is, I mean, since Reno has been shown to be like a gun guy, I guess it could be a gun maybe. I think it would be pretty interesting if it was like a suit. But let me know what you think number 6 as the weapon is, and let me know your Reno theories in the comments. If you like the video, guys, please give it a like, please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.